Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravikadrajacharya Shotar Shata Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Alright, today we're reading from the first canto, 5th chapter, text 14. Tato Nata Kinchana Yad Vivakshataha Pratag Drashas Tat Krita Rupa Namabihi Na Karhichit Kwapi Cha Dustita Matir Labite Labata Vatahata Nar Ivash Padam Tato Nata Kinchana Yad Vivakshata Pritrag Drestat Krita Rupanam Babihi Na Karhichit Kwapi Chadustita Matir Labeta Vatahata Naur Ivash Padam Tato Nata Kinchana Yad Vivakshatar Pritag Drishtas Tat Krita Rupa Namabihi Na Karhichit Kwapi Chadustita Matir Labeta Vatahata Nar Ivas Patam Tato Nata Kinchana Yad Vivakshata Pritag Drishas Tat Krita Rupa Namabihi Na Karhichit Kwapi Chadustita Matir Labite Vatahata Nar Ivaspatam Nata Kinchana Yad Vikshakshita Krita Krita Stat Krita Rupa Namabi. Karchit Papi Namaste. Krita Rupa Namabi. Karchit Papi Namaste. Vaishnavis. Donita Kinchana Vikshakshata. Rupa Namabi. All right, word for word. Tata, from that. Anyata, apart. Kinchana, something. Yet, whatsoever. Vivakshataha, desiring to describe. Pritak, separately. Drishaha, vision. Tadkrita, reactionary to that. Rupa, form. Namabihi, by names. Nakarhichit, never. Kwapi, any. Cha, and. Duhustita, matihi, osculating mind. Labeta, gains. Vata ahata, troubled by the wind. Nahu, boat. Eva, like. Ashpadam, place. Translation and purport. Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms and names to agitate the mind as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. Purport. Sri Vyasadeva is the editor of all descriptions of the Vedic literatures, and thus he has described transcendental realization in different ways, namely by fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, mystic power, and devotional service. Besides that, in his various Puranas, he has recommended the worship of so many demigods in different forms and names. The result is that people in general are puzzled how to fix their minds in the service of the Lord. They are always disturbed about finding the real path of self-realization. Srila Naradev is stressing this particular defect in the Vedic literatures compiled by Vyasadeva, and thus he is trying to emphasize describing everything in relation with the Supreme Lord and no one else. In fact, there is nothing existent except the Lord. The Lord is manifest in different expansions. He is the root of the complete tree. He is the stomach of the complete body. Pouring water on the root is the right process to water the tree, as much as feeding the stomach supplies energy to all parts of the body. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva should not have compiled any Puranas other than the Bhagavata Purana, because a slight deviation from that may create havoc for self-realization. If a slight deviation can create such havoc, then what to speak of deliberate expansion of the idea separate from the absolute truth, personality of Godhead? The most effective part of worshipping demigods is that it creates a definite conception of pantheism, ending disastrously in many religious sects, detrimental to the progress of the principles of Bhagavatam, which alone can give the accurate direction for self-realization in eternal relation with the personality of Godhead by devotional service and transcendental love. The example of the boat disturbed by the whirling wind is suitable in this respect. The diverted mind of the pantheist can never reach the perfection of self-realization due to the disturbed condition of the selection of object. Om Jnana Timanandasya Gananjanjana Shalakaya Chakshwaram Mritamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadatu Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sagana Raganaptam Itam Tam Sajivam Savadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishakam Itam Scha. Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms and names to agitate the mind, as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. Before I speak, generally what time is the wrap-up for questions? 8. Okay. All right. So this is Narada Muni speaking to Vyasadeva and pretty much cutting it down in a very polite way, but telling him that he really messed up. In this particular day and age and time, people have a very tough time being corrected or admitting that they were wrong or something like that. But Vyasadeva being he's a perfect disciple. A perfect spiritual master is also a great disciple. So Vyasadeva is a disciple of Narada Muni, and he is very humble and willing to listen and hear and be corrected by Narada Muni. So as I was saying previously, in this day and age, the general model is don't criticize me. So when Narada Muni came and he's saying these different things, and as will be spoken in the next translation, Narada Muni pretty much tells him that you wrote all these Puranas and things, but actually you've done a great misdeed, because people will take these different things that you gave, these different teachings, and they'll actually use them to facilitate their sense gratification, and they won't really budge from that. And we can I remember growing up and going to church with some of my friends. I don't remember the exact name of whatever it was, but there was, I think it was in some of the churches, they would drink wine and eat like this little cracker thing or something. And my friend, when they would come his chance to drink the wine or whatever, he would make sure to drink as much as he could from the priest. like that, because he wanted to get, I guess, intoxicated, and he was a little, like 13 or whatever. So in the name of religion, he was taking, this opportunity to drink the wine as a great chance to enjoy. And so Vyasadeva, when Narada Muni came and explained these things, he did get angry and said, well, we should just be friends, and whatever I say and whatever you say, it's all good, it's all one. And Narada Muni didn't push on this forward. He told him exactly what was wrong in the defects, and Vyasadeva accepted that. Narada Muni didn't go and start speaking, well, if it feels good, do it like that, or if you don't feel good, don't do it. He gave him the advice coming from the parampara, and that is the method in the system by which one can transcend the reactions of the mind, because it's described in the verse, dusta matihi, osculating mind. So going back and forth, accepting and rejecting. The mind can never bring peace to the self, because the one thing that brings the mind satisfaction, the next minute can bring great distress. Sometimes the mind says so many things. Go here, do this. If you buy this fancy car, you'll be happy. If you just have this amount of money, you'll be happy. And then the person gets it, and then the mind immediately becomes the distress of it, because they think, oh, now I have this car, it's so much money to pay off, why did I buy this car? So then this way the mind torments the self. So Narada Muni is giving this instruction, describing to him that whatever you're describing, which is separate from the Lord, going outside the schemes of devotional service will just agitate one's mind. It will bring no peace, because true peace can only come when one is engaged fully and perfectly in devotional service, pure devotional service. As described in the second chapter of the first canto, that that this devotional service, which is performed without interruption and motivation, it can bring true satisfaction to the self. So Narada Muni is instructing Vyasadeva in this manner to help bring out the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also to help teach us how to properly check ourselves, because we can see sometimes we may feel dissatisfied in devotional service. Whenever I feel dissatisfied, I always think back to this pastime, and I always read it, because it's very instructive, and because more or less the heart of it is at that we have to put pure devotional service in the center, doing everything just for the satisfaction of Krishna, and minimizing our own wants and our own needs and our own concerns. Because if we put ourselves first instead of putting Krishna first, then we won't feel truly satisfied. Because it's describing in this verse, which is, I believe, from the 11th canto, that pouring water on the root of the tree is the right process to water the tree. And feeding food to the stomach supplies energy to all parts of the body. So we receive happiness, we receive energy, we receive inspiration when we engage in selfless service to Sri Krishna and his devotees. And this is the process. So also being described here in this purport is giving the example of the boat in the wind. And a similar example is given in the Bhagavad Gita, that more or less if the sense that if the senses, or I forget the exact, but the more or less the idea is that if the mind is agitated, like as the boat is giving described here, of any of the senses, they can actually sweep away the mind as a boat, like that. So what we're looking for and what we need is to be anchored. The mind and the senses, they need an anchor, something strong to hold it down. And the wind can be seen as there's opportunity for sense gratifications. So we're described that this human form of life is this, especially this body, is like a boat, and the spiritual master is the captain, and the favorable winds or the Vedas are in that manner. So we have to anchor our mind and our intelligence to the instructions of the spiritual master as given in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So we can understand this anchor is Srila Prabhupada. He came and he gave these beautiful purports to help us to fix ourselves in the path of self-realization. Because we can understand, it's said that this Srimad Bhagavatam will give light in this age of Kali, but Kali Yuga. But we can also understand too that it's not it's the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's the Srimad Bhagavatam coming in parampara. It's not that just any Srimad Bhagavatam is going to give light to this darkened age, because so many different people read Srimad Bhagavatam. There's Bhagavatam saptas, and people are speaking, this and that, but they don't speak in the mood of service. So the Srimad Bhagavatam has to be spoken and understood with the lens of pure devotional service. And the true meaning can come out, and then we can understand, because different people can interpret, well, maybe Vyasadeva felt dissatisfied because of that, or because of this, or, he was, he really, he this and that. I don't know what they say. But we understand from the Parampara and Srila Prabhupada that was because he didn't glorify Krishna enough. But there is also too, how is there enough glorification of Krishna? Because even the Srimad Bhagavatam, that still isn't enough. Because glorification of Krishna is unlimited. It's described that Anantadev is glorifying Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, unlimitedly. There's no end to the glorification of the Lord because he's infinite. So even the Srimad Bhagavatam in itself is just a little introduction. But because Vyasadeva followed the orders of his spiritual master, he received the perfection in that way, in the sense that he satisfied Krishna. So the way to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead and please Krishna is to carry out the orders of the spiritual master with attention to detail and to follow as close as we can to the Parampara. So Srila Prabhupada came, and he, in the sense, so it's described that this Bhagavatam will give light in the age of Kali. And Srila Prabhupada took that light and spread it all over the world. But he grounded it in the right source, because we see that we have these different light fixtures, chandeliers and electricity, different lights. But without being plugged in or connected, or the light switch being turned on, there's no light, even though there's conduction there. So Srila Prabhupada, coming in the Parampara, connected the Bhagavatam in that way. So we owe so much to Srila Prabhupada for helping us and giving us the grounds in which we can base our life as a foundation. And so these different things are there. And so what's also mentioned too, as on the same note, is that it's spoken in here about that it's just dangerous. Let's see exactly how they say it. But just a slight deviation is dangerous, because we understand that this path of Krishna consciousness, it's like a razor's edge, that if we are inattentive or we begin to move a little bit this way, we'll immediately be cut by the material energy, or some misery or something can happen to us that will disturb our minds or disturb our focus or our direction. Because there's so many things to get disturbed about. One can get bewildered by the different descriptions of the heavenly planet, or one can even be bewildered by what this world has to offer. So many different things. But this little slight can cause havoc. So what to speak about directly manifesting ideas which are in deviation to the injunctions of the Shastras, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and of the teachings given by our Acharyas. Because, more or less, Krishna consciousness is a science. If you follow everything nicely, there will be some progress. And we show Krishna our sincerity in that way. And also to the spiritual master. But we have to follow. We have to follow everything that Srila Prabhupada gave, because this will bring out the Krishna consciousness within our heart more and more. This morning I was listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada on the nectar of devotion, and he gave I was going to bring it up but I didn't have time, but he gave the example, I believe it's in the preface, about how you have light. And light just keeps, going, as I said, the science, it just keeps going and going and going, and it doesn't stop. And he said that in the same way we can understand that that's how our love for Krishna grows. It just keeps going and expanding and expanding. So there's really no stop to this process of Krishna consciousness. It's an ongoing. You never read in the great poems of the Vaishnava Acharyas or hear about that, okay, now I've achieved perfection, I'm done. I've seen Krishna, I've reached the highest of my love. You never hear such a statement. But you do always hear about how they feel that they have no love for Krishna, and how they're completely boggled up by this material energy, out of that humility in that sense. Because the one that closer that he gets to Krishna, he begins to see the greatness of Krishna, and then he realizes how insignificant he is, like that. Lord Chaitanya gave the example that we should view ourselves as being more humble than a blade of grass. So in relation to Krishna, who is all great, all powerful, all knowing, and everywhere, and we look at ourselves, we see how small and infinitesimal we are. We realize how great the Lord is, and that perception begins to increase more and more as one goes forward on the path of Krishna consciousness. So to go further on that, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, I believe, that people are more or less already confused about what self-realization is, or what spirituality is. And then he's saying in here that you've how does he say it exactly? That you've introduced different worship of demigods, different forms and names, and people are confused about that, and people are still confused about that. And it's also too, then you have people, Shiva supreme, Kali supreme, and this and that, and they argue one another and fight one another, and then they chant and do different things like that. I remember when years and years ago, before I found out about ISKCON, that I used to go to a Hindu temple. And in the different temple, they had all the different deities. They had Ganesh, Durga, Shiva, Venkateshwara, Bhumi. They had, and Radha Krishna, and also Sitaram. And, I used to go there every day for a while. And they had a different book too, which was also confusing. That probably confused me the most. But they had a book. There wasn't too many words in it, but it had, Ganesh, Durga, Shiva, Ram, Sita, Radha Krishna, and maybe not Vishnu. But anyways, the picture was just a couple pictures in the book, and then it had all the different. It was pointing to the different things that the different demigods and Krishna or Ram were holding, and it was explaining how this symbolizes this, and this symbolizes that, and this symbolizes this. I forget the different things that they were saying, but it's confusing in the sense because that kind of gives the hint that, well, maybe this form of Ganesh, it really isn't real. It's just a symbolism for something else. And so is Krishna. It's not, there's not really a Krishna, but there's this form of Krishna which symbolizes this and that. So it's confusing in that sense. And that's what, the book was saying. And, I went there every day. And the last day I went, one of the pujaris spoke to me. And he more or less said, he said different things, but he said ultimately, all these different, forms, they're coming from the one source. I guess Brahman or something like that. I don't really know what school of philosophy they followed. No one really spoke to me when I went there. It was a good thing. That was the only thing he said, and I didn't really understand it. And that was my last time there. But anyways, we understand that that's not true. That Krishna stu Bhagavam Swayam. But people are so adamant and so confused, and they're really determined, that everything is coming from Krishna. It doesn't matter what you worship and things like that. So we don't see that so much with people in the West. They have no really too much of an idea. Usually they think actually this is, what is being brought up in here. Usually they actually think that Krishna consciousness is pantheism. They say, you believe in, what God do you believe in? Or don't you believe in lots of gods? And some people are surprised to understand that we don't, because how do you say, the understanding of what Hinduism is in the minds of the general masses today is more or less propaganda. They think, that it's a wider way of things, but they understand Hinduism as more or less as many theistic opinions which are actually contrary to one another. So, for example, people understand, well, from what people call Hinduism, they within that category is you have pantheism, monotheism, and you have Mayavadi. So you have different conflicting theories. So I usually explain that to people when people ask for Hindu, and I say no, and I say, Hindu is this vague word. It means a lot of different things, and I explain that. People understand. So Vyasadeva really mixed it up here, and Narada Muni came to clear the path out to pure devotional service. So also too, we understand that we need some help in endeavoring on the path of pure devotional service, because we may fall into the tricks of our own mind of kind of accepting or rejecting, because we can't really figure it out by ourselves. That's why there's a society of devotees and things to help guide us, to help give us an opinion on maybe even a particular situation in which we're completely engrossed in. Because the situation that Arjuna was in, I mean, it was pretty simple for Krishna. You just fight and do your duty like that. But Arjuna was saying all these different things. I can't fight. There's my teachers there. If I kill all these people, the society's just going to go to hell. Maybe I can just go to the woods. And even when Krishna was giving him instructions, he was getting confused. He was saying, you're telling me to fight, but you're saying higher than fighting is intelligence. And then Prabhupada makes a point in the purport that Arjuna was trying to use Krishna consciousness as an excuse to get out of his duty. So in that way, we can become confused and even bewildered by the instructions that the acharyas give. So when we get, Krishna, he helped Arjuna. Now, it's not because really that Krishna was attached or in that sense, but he gave him proper instruction by which to see his situation. And in the end, Arjuna understood. He said, yes, I should fight in that manner. So in the sense, in that way, we all have our little fight to, conquer over. And there'll definitely be some tests because there's a verse, I don't know it off the top of my head, have it written down somewhere, but it's described that, Krishna rarely grants pure devotional service for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons is he actually wants to see that we're sincere and we want this. Because when Krishna grants pure devotional service, he gives himself. And it's not a cheap thing. And of course, this isn't something of like trying to, okay, now I've got pure devotional service, I've conquered over Krishna. It's nothing in that sense, because one who is in love with somebody, they want to do things to please that person completely, fully. They don't want to hold anything back. They don't want to keep anything to the side. There's no hidden motives. There's no ulterior desires. So Krishna wants to see that we're actually sincere. And also, too, Krishna wants us to become to that platform of pure devotional service. So Krishna may give us things, Krishna may take things away, he may put us in certain situations to help us in that process of surrender. And there's so many different prayers. As in the prayers of Queen Kunti. Kunti's praying, in a very, we can say it's a very heavy way, but it's actually a very glorious way, because she's praying that I don't want my affection to be diverted or to be many sprayed, but I want it to flow directly onto you like the Ganges. In that way, she's saying, cut my ties of affection for my family members, the Pandavas. So she just wants all of her focus to go into Krishna. And she doesn't want to be diverted. And she's serious in that manner. She's not, of course, she's praised too, Vipra tantu sas tatra tatra jagat guru bhavanam darshano yat swat apunan bhava darshanam. That these calamities that are happening, let them happen again and again, so I can see you again and again. For by seeing you, I will no longer see this repeated birth and death. But she's not saying let these calamities happen again so I get liberation, but she's saying these calamities, they can happen again and again because I will get your association and I will get to see you. Because we understand, as Lord Chaitanya taught, nadananam najananam asurunim kavitam Jagadisha Kame, Mama Janmani Janmani, Ishared Bhavatad Bhakti Arhaitiki Tvai. That ultimately, when one is, well, first of all, that one doesn't want in pure devotional service, or even, it's not that he doesn't want things, okay, I don't want money, I don't want women, I don't want sense gratification, but because the taste in devotional service is so high, and it completely exceeds even the thought of sense gratification, even liberation. Lord Chaitanya is playing, Janmani Janmani Ishared Bhavatad Bhakti Arhaitiki Tvai. So Queen Kunti mood is also having that same mood of, I don't care so much for all these different calamities. And she went through a lot. It wasn't that, somebody died or whatever, she got cancer and that was that. But she was cursed to go, or not cursed, but she went to the forest with the Pandavas. And she had to suffer all these different atrocities. Something's coming to mind now where Prabhupada is, I think he's saying more or less, it's that... Kunti was actually, in a sense, she was more fortunate than Devaki, because Devaki, she was locked up for some time, and Krishna was her son in that way, but she was more or less safe. But Kunti had no other shelter, and so did Draupadi too. What shelter did she have? Nobody can help her. They're trying to disrobe her in the assembly, and she calls out to Krishna, and in that way, Krishna saves her. So Krishna may do something like to us, may put us in a really intense situation so we can really call out. And when we're in those situations or something's going really tough, we can really take shelter of Krishna's holy name and of Srila Prabhupada's books. And the path of pure devotional service can become revealed to us. And in that way we can walk forward in that direction. And we can lose taste for this material world. So Lord Chaitanya spoke in that way, that we should have that mood of wanting to serve Krishna in any condition, whether liberated or not liberated. And as previously stated, that will come as one taste for devotional service increases, where one simply just wants to carry out the orders of the spiritual master and the parampara. And this is the goal, and this is what Srila Prabhupada came to give. Prabhupada came to give the highest, the absolute highest, which hasn't been offered before. And what's even more so glorious is that Srila Prabhupada also, he fulfilled a lot of these different purports that are spoken by Krishna, spoken by Lord Chaitanya, spoken by Vyasadeva, and all the great devotees in the Srimad Bhagavatam, by giving people a chance to take part in this process of Krishna consciousness in that manner. We're so fortunate to be here, and even more fortunate to be here by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, because we sing every day, and sometimes we may think, get caught up in maybe even the city, California, Los Angeles, North America, whatever, America, United States, the planet that we live on, but we sing Evayas Skivo Chibhuvana, that the glories of the spiritual master, they're spread all over the three worlds. So we can understand that Srila Prabhupada and this purports also that these aren't just glorious on this planet, and we shouldn't get discouraged if people don't appreciate Srila Prabhupada so much here, or whatever misconceptions they may have or crazy ideas they may have developed. But we should understand that Srila Prabhupada is glorious. There's a lot of other people whose opinion matters much more than some guy on the street about who Srila Prabhupada is, his position, and what people came to give. Even the demigods, in that way, they glorify Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada would mention that on different occasions, demigods would come to see and hear him speak. So how fortunate are we that we're here? Some of us have even had Srila Prabhupada's association. Everything is here. Srila Prabhupada gave everything that we need to become fully Krishna conscious. So the mercy is already there on the other half. Krishna is giving us mercy, Prabhupada is giving us mercy, but we have to reach out for the mercy and grab it in that sense. So in essence, Narada Muni is instructing Vyasadeva and telling him that unless you anchor yourself in pure devotional service and this literature that you're writing, there will be no peace for the conditioned souls, which is the goal of your works, and you won't feel satisfied because the main objective in which you are trying to complete will not be fulfilled. So I'll end there at this particular point in time for questions and comments.
In presenting Krishna consciousness, sometimes we find means and ways to disguise a little bit the presentation in order to attract the conditioned souls. Sometimes they might not be ready to hear directly, the preaching. And I stopped by to the table where you were, and this particular person was asking different questions, and she was not, convinced that she will pick up one book, read the book, put it back, open another book, put it back, and she was trying to find out something. And I figured out that most of the people, sometimes because they see the sign yoga, they always come for that. So anyway, my question was that, what would you have answered to this lady when she said, because the other devotee was answering question, but she wasn't really that convinced yet. She said, all these books are about religion. And then she said, the final question was, is God involved in this? are these books about God? So I didn't want to say anything because I was watching what you guys were saying. So what will be your answer? Because I don't think you spoke so much.
Yeah, it depends. Because also too, like, Prabhupada would place the importance, especially on book distribution, of just trying to get somebody to take a book. Because somebody, they may, like that woman, for instance, she was like, she didn't really want anything to do with God. She was saying, I don't want a book that's going to preach to me. Is this about God or whatever? And she was going through all the different books. But, yeah, so I mean, so in this sense of book distribution, I always try to get somebody to take a book. Not in the sense of like, lying a whole bunch, but if somebody's like, I try to, kind of be quick about it. But in the sense too, like also, like I'm out there wearing a dhoti and things like that. So, I mean, if people are, I try to speak like as straightforward as I can to people, but some people, they just, they can't handle it, or they don't listen, or they won't take a book or whatever. But, I mean, as far as I would have handled that, generally just like, when I present the books, it's like yoga and meditation, just to get somebody to take the book. And in that sense, just try to like, at least engage them in that amount of service. Because ultimately, to take up to devotional service, one needs the blessings of Krishna and the devotees in that sense. So many times also in the past, people have come to Krishna consciousness kind of maybe unfavorably, but by the association of devotees and a little bit of speaking, they may be able to relieve some misconceptions they may have had. I think that woman probably had a lot of misconceptions about what God was. Yes, Prabhu.
Srila Prabhupada said the example that when people come in that kind of mood, you put it back on them. Because many times they would ask Prabhupada, well, what about this person? What about that philosophy? And then Prabhupada said, well, what is your understanding of that? And then they would go, understanding that they really don't have a clear. Then he would say, then listen to me.
Yeah, that's good.
So they were very concerned, and they asked Prabhupada this question, and they were thinking that Chapari Maharaj was actually just lying. So Srila Prabhupada's retort to that was that, no, it is true. If they read these books, they'll understand how they have uncontrolled senses and uncontrolled mind, and that is the reason why there's any shortage in this material world. So if they read the Bhagavad Gita, they read the Srimad Bhagavatam, they'll understand how to stop all this. Otherwise, they will never stop because they have uncontrolled mind, uncontrolled senses. So Prabhupada didn't have a problem with Chipari Maharaj saying that. He was interested in that person getting the book, and they got the book, and that's how they'll stop all this uncontrolled activity.
Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Thank you.